Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to find us on any of those platforms, all you got to do is search Picks and Parlays, and also on YouTube for Winning Free Picks. I'm your host, Chelsa Messinger. You can find me every day on Twitter. My handle is just my name, at Chelsa Messinger. If you want to drop me a line or a comment, we're getting things going nice and early this morning. It sounds like everyone is a morning person on the show, except for me, judging by the way everybody was talking before the show. I have not had any coffee yet, so I do apologize if I'm a little chipper, a little less chipper than I usually am. But we've got a great show. We've got plenty of ways to make some money this week, including college basketball and NBA. College basketball, it's time for conference tournaments, and it's been fun. If you've watched some of these conference tournaments that have already gotten going already, the Belmont-Murray State game, that was a good one, down to the wire till the very last possession for a trip to the NCAA tournament, because for a lot of these teams, that's their only way to get in the tournament. They don't get the at-large bids like the big schools do. A big upset of San Diego State happened. Utah State, they're going dancing because they won that conference tournament. And that kind of sucks for the teams that are on the bubble. When teams win that are not supposed to win, that means the bubble teams are in trouble, like my NC State Wolfpack, even though, you know what, I don't think we deserve to be in the tournament anyway. Got a great show lined up, college basketball and NBA. NBA, let's talk about the Hornets a little bit. Yeah, not a team that we thought that we'd be talking about, but they're pretty hot right now. They've been beating some top-notch teams, and they're 6-0 against the spread in their last 6. What a run for the Hornets. We'll talk about the Hornets-Hawks game, Raptors-Jazz, and I believe one more, Bucks-Nuggets. Bucks are one of those teams that have not been hot, coming off that loss to the Lakers and also a loss to the lowly Suns. It's all coming up on Picks and Parlays. Stick with us after the break, talking college hoops. Doing NBA in the first segment. I misspoke. As I mentioned, not a morning person over here, so it takes a while for these brain cells to get going, especially since I haven't had my basic white girl coffee yet. I'll have to go to Starbucks later. So we're kicking off today's show with some NBA late season betting tips with Craig Trapp, who has on, is that a bowling shirt or a vest? I can't tell.
Just a vest today. I'm not a morning person either, although it is 11:15 Eastern Standard Time when we're taping this, so I should be up and rolling by now. It's just it's the Monday morning blues this time of year with a huge weekend of March Madness, and I think everybody you kind of have the calm before the storm of this huge week of March Madness coming up.
Right. I don't think we should have the Sunday scaries since we talk about sports betting. Like, it's fun, but it's still work, and you still have to get up. But yeah, some of these college basketball tournaments have been a lot of fun to watch. But NBA, it's a long season for a lot of these guys. So there's ups and downs. You see the injuries, the load management, I think is the term that they're using. Let's talk about how
time of year, especially the last few years, more than we've seen in years past. Like you said, the new word, the new catchphrase in the NBA is load management / injuries. I mean, this time of year, it's just you don't see guys do what Jordan did, where he played every game year in, year out. It just, he would take a very big injury for him not to play. Now guys miss a ton of games. Right now we're in a stretch here where Giannis is going to be out for a few games. And you see the line today for that game went from an advanced line of Milwaukee at 2, which we were expecting to see Denver as favorite. but now the line is 6.5 or 7 because Giannis is out. So, I mean, you really have to pay attention to these injuries and to load management, or even games when, guys are on minutes restrictions where they're just not going to play. They're going to use the bench more. So I think this time of year, late season NBA, though the number one and number two things I look at is injury/load management. And then the follow very closely, Chelsa, by scheduling. Tony T talks about this a lot. Is, man, these schedules can be crazy because of of course, the best teams, they play in the featured games. So sometimes they might get stuck with a little more travel than other teams because the NBA wants to feature them on, say, a Thursday night, and then they have to travel back home to play on a Friday. So make sure you're paying attention to the schedule. Back-to-backs this time of year, even though they've reduced the number of back-to-backs in the NBA, there's still a ton of them. And, man, there's several. If you don't know, your team that you're betting on is on a back-to-back. So make sure you're paying attention to the NBA schedule.
Right. That was something I noticed with the Bucks game that we're doing today is the Bucks have only played 3 home games since the All-Star break, which I had to triple check because that seemed crazy for a team that's a marquee team, but that has to be tough even for young guys.
Oh, that's absolutely the key, Chelsea. When you look at some of these, or where they'll play what Tony T, and I love this angle, where they play the dreaded one game back at home and then back on the road. So he basically counts that as a road game because you don't even get to stay in the same city. So you just travel in the night before, you play, boom, you're right back out of town. And those are very, very tough on teams. So looking at that schedule, who they played the game before. Obviously, if you're the let's just say the Phoenix Suns and you played the Lakers the game before and you played well, and then the next game maybe you play the Hornets, big letdown spot. So it's very important for some of these teams to play well against the best teams in the NBA, but not so good when they play against the lesser of the opponents.
I was going to ask, are there any teams you think that doesn't make as big of a difference? Because as I mentioned, some of these guys are pretty young. Some of these teams are driven by very young superstars, like the Grizzlies, even though they went on a stretch where they were doing pretty terrible themselves. But do you think there's any teams where it doesn't have as much of an effect?
Well, it's the haves and have-nots this time of year. So you have the teams that are fighting for playoffs and for spots. There's a lot of teams that are fighting for a home, a home game, a home series where they're gonna be the home team versus if you're the 4 versus the 5, that's a big matchup in the NBA, especially out west. And then teams that are fighting for that last playoff spot versus there's 10 teams in the NBA. They're basically been out of it for the entire season. Let's just be honest. But so those teams are the teams I worry about. Those bottom 8 to 10 teams in the NBA that are the doormats of the league this year. What are they getting up for? If it's a young team, the Hornets would be a good example, but they're actually a team that's been playing, like you said, lights out basketball. A Hawks team that's been just the opposite, where you would expect with Trae Young having his great season in the first half that they would have come out after the All-Star break, been playing well, but it's been just the opposite. The Hawks have been really poor. And then the Hornets, you would expect them to kind of throw in the towel, just putting through the motions. Hasn't been the case. Hornets have been really good lately. 6 in a row against the spread, like you said.
On the opposite end, the Hornets just beat the Rockets. The Rockets have gotten beat by the Knicks as well. What's going on with the Rockets? Because at first it looked like the small ball approach was working, and now
somebody to come up with a system on how we're going to defend, how we're going to attack that small ball of the Houston Rockets. Funny to be that it would be the Knicks that figured it out. I'd say there was other teams that did better figuring it out, but I mean that put it all together in one game. And since then, the Houston Rockets, they've lost 4 in a row or 4 or 5. So I mean, Houston has really struggled. So it's a copycat league. Once people figure you out, then you have to make those adjustments. And the best coaches, they're the Greg Popoviches and the Phil Jacksons of the world. They're the best at making not just in-game adjustments, because that's very important, but game-to-game adjustments so that, hey, we're going to attack things differently so teams can't be so prepared for us. And, Mark D'Antonio is not really known for that style of coaching, so I don't know what's going to happen here in Houston. But right now, it does not look very good. Houston is definitely headed in the wrong direction. And this time of year, momentum is a big thing. I mean, we see it in college basketball, of course, March Madness, but March is also a big momentum month in the NBA. And that's not something you can avoid. I don't run to the window when I see 6-0 against the spread, but it definitely catches my eye, and I'd rather be on the team that's 6-0 versus the team that's 0-6.
Right. I'm sure for the Rockets, it's not helping that James Harden is getting quadruple doubles, as somebody was roasting him for it, where he gets a triple double, but also 10 turnovers. So this time of year, some of these guys are playing sloppy. I don't know if it's just fatigue, if it's just they stopped caring, because that in the NBA, it seems like apathy is another thing. Some of these superstars don't seem to care on some nights.
The load management, Harden could use some load management. Of all the teams, they could use one, and they do not employ that strategy where he handles the ball so much throughout the year, it almost looks like he's hit a wall. You usually see that in rookies, but it's definitely looking like that for this Houston Rockets team that's playing in that small ball style right now. And they're so committed to it. There's nothing they can do about it this season except just hope that James Harden, these big trends, and you see the line come out at tonight the Denver Nuggets the advanced line was -3. Then you see the line come out at -7. That should make you take notice. What is going on? Obviously injuries. That's what Giannis. And the Bucks did not play well without Giannis just recently. So that has a lot to do with it. So take hold. Don't go crazy in on it because there's obviously a reason for the line movement. Don't just fall for the trick. And also with the line movement when the totals. Right now in the NBA, these totals for the overs are crazy, so make sure you're watching the line movement.
All right, we've got to wrap it up. That is our segment. We're back after the break on Picks and Parlays. Welcome back to Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You know the whole spiel because I do it every time, but it's the info we got to get out there. I am the host for today's show. I am Chelsa Messinger, and you can find me on Twitter at Chelsa Messinger is my handle. It's that time of year. College basketball conference tournaments are ramping up, and of course we're going to talk about them because they're fun to watch and also very fun to bet on. Sean Higgs is joining us, where he hopefully has not contracted the coronavirus. Sean, have you been coughing at all?
Not really. A couple weeks ago I had to cough, but it could have been corona. Who the heck knows? You go down I was in AC for the Super Bowl. We had the fan cave, and you never know. You got visitors from all over, so I could have had the coronavirus. But I'm healthy. I'm in my 40s. I'm not high risk, so I feel good.
For now, Sean.
Please, that's a bunch of crap, man. It's a flu. Come on, people. I went to ShopRite this morning, and I had to get regular cleaning supplies. I washed the floor. Dude, there's no sprays, no nothing. There was no baby wipes. I'm like, what the heck is going on in this place?
I just don't understand why people weren't cleaning beforehand. Were people not?
You don't. I mean, all right. I usually try to keep 2 underneath, at all times. I wash the floors every week. You can run through it. But how do you just? I don't know exactly. How don't you have cleaning supplies in your house or food for that matter? There's no canned goods left. I get a kick.
don't know.
I mean, you're in Nashville. In the Northeast, sometimes we get snow up here sometimes. Oh my God, it's gonna snow. It's a nor'easter. And you'd go to the store and everything's gone. There's nothing in the freezer section. There's no bread. Like, people, what? It's 6, 7, 8 inches of snow. It'll be, what are you doing? It's a day in the house.
Do you really need
You'll be
3
all right.
loaves of bread?
But I don't know.
I don't get it,
understand people.
but on to less grim things. So if we survive the weekend, we'll have some college basketball to bet on. Let's start with the West Coast Conference. San Francisco, Gonzaga. Gonzaga, of course, still fighting for that number 1 seed out west, especially since San Diego State lost. So they will have a chance to get it in the tournament. Right now, I have Gonzaga as minus 12.5 point favorites. Total is 151.5. San Francisco coming off that win over Pacific. I watched that game. It was actually all right at times. Not much else to do on the weekends when you have a baby, I guess. But San Francisco 22-11 on the year, 2-0 against the spread at neutral sites. So what do we have on this matchup?
Yes, yeah, this is interesting because you got, San Fran in off those 2 games. They beat Marymount by 29, and they were like 7-25 from 3, and you're like, yikes, and you still win that game by 30 points. It's crazy. I don't think, though. Here's the thing: 31% shooting for Pacific, and then the same with like Loyola Marymount. Are you gonna slow down Gonzaga like that? That's not happening. And as I mentioned, now the 1 seed. Before was like, who's gonna get the 1 seed? Them or the Aztecs? Clearly, Aztecs are gonna go out east as number 2 seed now. So it's there for Gonzaga to lose. Even if they lose in the next round, I still think they get the 1 seed. But I'm not about the points here. It's it's 13. It came down a point. I'm leaning towards taking the points to a Pepperdine. San Francisco. They played them tough in San Fran. It's tough to go against Gonzaga. I know they're a great team. I mean, 29-2 is all you need to know. But I'm going to take the points. I just feel that Pepperdine's playing well. I keep saying Pepperdine. I don't know why.
San Francisco.
I keep saying because you said you watched that game. That's why it's in my head. A lot of extra time with this Gonzaga team being off. They've been off for what, almost like a week and a half. That's a lot of rest. So I don't know. Maybe they come out a little choppy. It's still a neutral court for them. It's not a home game. It's a bunch of points. I'm going to dog it up here. It's that time of year. I'll take the dog here. And my luck, it's going to end down 15. I'll lose by a bucket, but I'm still taking the underdog here with the Dons. Let's go San Fran.
As you mentioned, Gonzaga coming off that bye, and sometimes I wonder if that's even a good thing for some of these teams because San Francisco, they've won 5 in a row, and sometimes that momentum is very helpful as opposed to, just sitting and watching these other teams play. Let's talk about that last meeting. It was on February 20th. 71-54, a win for Gonzaga, but San Francisco led at halftime. So Gonzaga got really hot in the second half. So I'm wondering if maybe even a first half bet on San Francisco, at least to cover that. You like it?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we saw in the Mountain West where the Aztecs came out slow against their teams, against Air Force or whatever. And here's the same kind of situation. You mentioned them at home coming out slow against San Fran, and the other game it was 83-79 in San Fran. So obviously they got some kind of defense going, even if it collapses as the talent level separates. As you get on that timeline, starts going like this. You say, "Hey, one team's better than the next, and the talent's going to prevail." So again, first half, let's go for it because again, for a team like San Fran, you're playing in a spot where hey, let's get our. I think there's a herd of elephants just ran into my house here. Excuse me if it's getting loud. My wife and her friends just stormed in. So here you got the way San Fran's been playing. As you said, the momentum is there for them. So I think it's a good spot, especially first half. Let's take it. We get 6, maybe 7 points if we're lucky here, depending on how the line goes. People probably bet on Gonzaga. They're the bigger name, so we'll get a better number.
Right. And one more note on that game before we move on. Holy hot over. Gonzaga has hit the over 12 of their last 13. So if you do like that 151.5, maybe worth looking at. Let's move on to another West Coast game. St. Mary's BYU. I have BYU at -4, total 145.5. St. Mary's is the 3 seed, BYU the 2 seed. They've had a bye week, so they're coming off some rest. St. Mary's is coming off a win over Pepperdine, your favorite team. They've hit the over in 6 of their last 7.
I don't know why that was in my head the entire time.
I don't
Maybe
know.
I'm thinking like
Probably
peppermint patties. I don't even know.
Well, you probably did research for this game and you saw Pepperdine. St. Mary's only 3 losses in their last 10, 2 of those to a very good Gonzaga team and 1 to BYU. So what are some initial thoughts on this one?
I was thinking on this BYU team. I'm like, you hear about how efficient they are. They're top 10. Actually, I think they're 12 in the KenPom ratings. This is a really kind of under the radar team. And I'm looking at the matchups. They played 2 close games already this year. I'm not as high on Mary's as everybody else is. And I've actually heard that maybe Mary's isn't even in the tournament, which is I feel bad for the WCC because you can only play who's in front of you. And you're going to win 25, 26 games and not get into the NCAA tournament. That's terrible. But I like BYU here. I'm going to lay them. It's come down to 4, which worries me a little bit. But I'm looking at this team. This Childs is anything but a child. 22-9. The guy's a beast. 58% field goal percentage. I was going through their shooters for the team. Everybody on this team is like 48, 49%. It's insane. Right down the line, 6, 7 guys. Everybody could shoot on this team. So I'm going to lay the points here. It's 4. But the way BYU's playing, I mean, let's be honest. They knocked off Gonzaga at home. It was right out of the gate. I'll go BYU. We're taking the Mormons here. I just like the team the way they've been playing. Sometimes you just gotta say, you know what, forget everything you see and trust the game there. And BYU's just been playing very well lately. So I'm gonna lay the number. I don't like it that's dropped on us, but it's better for us. I'll take it. Whatever. Might be the low hanging fruit we're grabbing, but I'm going BYU here, and I won't be shocked if they win against Gonzaga. That's the way they've been playing. So BYU.
Right. Despite coming off that bye week, they do ride a lot of momentum. A 9-game win streak, including a 91-78 win over Gonzaga as an 8-point dog, scoring 91 points against Gonzaga. Even if Gonzaga doesn't play, the greatest of defense sometimes, 91 points is still a lot in college basketball. So pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was looking at these teams: 48% from 3, 49% field goal, 50% 3, 62% field goal percentages. I mean, like even the guys coming in for 16 minutes, they're hitting all their shots. It's it's March. You'd think this isn't like after 6 games. This is after 30 games. So I don't think the hot shooting is going to cool anytime soon.
Any other games or tournaments you're looking at?
Well, I got 2 games up. You mentioned, people bypassed last week. I went 18-9-1. That's 64% in my little small conferences. I got 2 games up tonight in the Mac and Horizon. But Oral, I like this Oral Roberts team tonight. They're the 4 seed. It's basically a pick 'em. They're getting 1 from the 1 seed. I'm grabbing a 105. I like their lineup. Listen, it's a 5 to 6 man team, but let's go Oral Roberts tonight. That's your freebie right here on the show. It's Oral Roberts. That was almost a premium play for me. So. Take Oral.
Who are they playing? Do you know?
North Dakota State.
North Dak State. I don't think I've ever heard them called that.
North Dakota. I put no Dak State on a piece of paper. I'm not writing that. I did a lot of writing when I'm an old school paper guy. I write it up. That's too much Dakota. Write that out. No Dak State.
That's like,
forget it.
I think somebody that's from San Francisco said they hate it when people call them San Fran, but it's such an easy abbreviation.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know.
SF. San Fran. San Fran. What's the problem?
Well, on
it's
their
like LA.
uniforms,
Is that a problem?
Right. On their uniforms, I think it's USF, which is also, University of South Florida. So it's just a little confusing some of these times, especially when the smaller schools.
And Dons.
They've been playing. Right. What a mascot. I kind of like that. What is a Don?
I don't know. Is that like a priest or something? I don't know what it is.
Is it? I thought it was.
I don't know. I thought it was a.
It's not something in the mafia, is it?
Oh yeah, Don's like the head of the family. Be Don Mattingly. Maybe they're big Don Mattingly fans. They're big fans of his mustache back in '85.
I don't know. That's something.
Tony, you don't even know who Don Mattingly is. Yeah, that's it. I'm like, what?
No, I know who Don Mattingly is. I know baseball.
Okay, Karen.
Okay, Karen. All right, on that note, you're cut off. We're on to the next segment, and hopefully I won't get called Karen when we talk NBA with Tony T. Sean, bye. We'll see you next week.
Later. See ya.
Network, also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm your host, Chelsa Messinger. I'm on Twitter at Chelsa Messinger. If you want to drop me a line, a comment, or some feedback. Right now on the show, we've already done college basketball, so now it's time for NBA. The season is already in full force, already past the halfway point. We know what some of these teams have, what teams, aren't really cutting it. And we've got Tony T to talk a little NBA. Hello, Tony.
Hey, Chelsa, how you doing? Yeah, a lot of things going on in the NBA. We just saw Kenny Atkinson let go over the weekend for the Nets, a team that looks like they will be making the playoffs. But, in this league today, it's all about being a player's coach. I think back to 2011 when one of the most hard-nosed coaches, Jerry Sloan, had a run-in with the star player, Deron Williams. And, of course, the team saw Deron Williams' side, and that was the end of it. It made the NBA change forever, where you can't really be that controlling coach. They tried it with Cleveland, with Beeline. That didn't work. I think star players, I think they just want support more than hard-nosed coaching and being told what to do and being questioned for their decision-making. I think we've seen that. I can't trust, especially some of these seasoned pros. They just want support, I think, nowadays.
And it even goes sometimes further than that. We've seen what LeBron has done with some of his teams. The New Orleans Pelicans are just all the people that he traded away from LA, it seems like.
Yeah, it even dips their control, even dips into the general manager's seat. And now these players are so valuable, and they know how valuable they are to the team, especially these players under max contracts. It's probably almost an unwritten rule now. When you sign a max contract, well, you have a lot of say in a lot of the decision-making, draft picks, trades, even coaching changes, maybe even coaching suggestions when they approach the player. Are you comfortable playing under this coach? Do we need to make a change? I'm pretty sure some of those that's been conversed amongst management and these max contract players.
Right. If you're paying them that much money, then they probably do deserve a say because they're going to be there for a while, and they're your highest paid player and your highest paid almost executive on the team. But let's get back to our daily betting. Let's start with a team that, it's probably not the superstar central, especially since Kimba left. The Hornets. But the Hornets are 6-0 against the spread in their last 6. Holy heater. Against the Hawks tonight, they're -4.5, or the Hawks are -4.5. They're favored in this one. At home, total is 225. So do we like the hot team, or do we like the home team in this one?
Yeah, I got to roll with the hot team. I'm going to take the points here with Charlotte. They've been competitive, as you mentioned. They've covered 6 straight, but more importantly, look at their injury report. They're pretty healthy. In recent road games, we saw that the Hornets come away with wins against bad teams in the Bulls and Timberwolves. And Atlanta, they're the worst team in the Eastern Conference. Don't forget about that. People like to hype up this Atlanta team. Yeah, they do make covers, but mostly because they go over the total. They've made money for better, so sometimes they exaggerate too much about the teams like Atlanta Hawks. They are a bad team. Don't forget that. They're the worst team in the East. And being worst in the East means you're the worst in the NBA. But one thing with the Hornets is they've shot the ball better. When you look over their numbers, past 5 games, 38% from 3. Their defense has been good, holding opponents to 43% shooting, 28% from 3. And that tells me they're about 5 games out of the playoff spot right now. That tells me this team is ready for a charge. But be careful. If they hit another losing streak, they may just throw in the towel. So you just got to be careful with this Hornets team. Just take them game by game right now because, again, they are still an arm's reach away from the playoffs. But if they hit a losing streak, it could be the end of their momentum. But we look at the Hawks side. Well, they've lost and failed to cover 3 straight. Worse, their form is poor right now than the Hornets. Of course, their defense is bad. It hasn't been good throughout the season. They're giving up 48% shooting, nearly 40% from 3 over their past 5 games. When you look at their injury report, Chelsea, they're dealing with several injuries to the rotation in support of Trae Young. Young is healthy, but a lot of his supporting cast isn't. So I would look with taking the points here with Charlotte.
Right. As you mentioned, the Hornets aren't just beating bad teams. They're beating good teams. They beat the Raptors, and they beat the Rockets after jumping out to a 20-0 lead against the Rockets. What a start to that game. And they also held the Bucks to 93 points, which that jumped out to me. I'm not sure if there was something else going on that I didn't see, but yeah, they're playing good basketball right now, just at least looking at the box scores.
Yeah, look at the box score. It is. It's very important too. Looking at the injury report, where you don't see any injuries there, so that's a big plus this time of the year, where teams are getting hit with some really brutal scheduling spots. But no, Charlotte is doing their own. As I said, it does help that they are in playoff contention. So when you're a streaking team like that, you got something to shoot for. I would. That's something else I want to look at here with the Hornets. Atlanta, a lottery team, last place in the East, probably looking at a first pick of the draft. So you may see a little bit of rotational changes here. Hoping that they better their chances for obviously they're going to get a lottery pick, but to increase their chances there with these ping pong balls. But anyway, yeah, I would definitely take the points here.
All right, moving on to the Raptors and the Jazz. The Jazz favor in this one -4. Total is 225. Raptors 44-18 on the year, 34-28 against the spread. Jazz 41-22, 29-32-2 against the number. The Raptors have been a good road team. 21-9 on the season away, but just 15-15 against the number away. So who do we like? Do we like the Raptors, the Jazz, or the total?
Yeah, I'm going to lean here with the Raptors taking the points. I see it 4.5 creeped up here. I know they're on a back-to-back, but more importantly, Marc Gasol is expected to return to the lineup. He's been sidelined. He's been bothered by a groin injury throughout the season. But when you look at them, they've won 3 straight on this trip. They've covered 13 of 16 against Utah. So they had really good success against the Jazz. They've also covered 6 times in a row in Utah. And one thing about the Jazz, when you look at their results, what they've done here is they have struggled against elite teams. I'm talking about teams with a 60% win percentage or greater. They failed to cover 7 of their past 8 there. And of course, overall, Utah's failed to cover 4 straight at home. And the issue with them has just been the defense. The defense has been really inconsistent, especially against elite teams. And of course, the Raptors, they've defended well on the road. You look at one thing to note here, we talked about the Jazz. 4 of their past 5 wins have come against some bad teams: Wizards, Cavs, Knicks, and Pistons. The other win came against an injury-riddled Boston Celtics team, who they've been injured themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 4. You can actually find 4.5 now with the Toronto Raptors in this one.
All right, let's go on to a number that I know has moved since I copied it down. The Bucks and the Nuggets. I have the Nuggets at -2, but I know this has probably moved since Giannis is out with a knee injury. Do you know the number on this one that's more up to date?
Yeah, the up-to-date number is 5.5, and it was known yesterday that Giannis wasn't going to play. So I guess people have just starting to get on board here with this Denver team, and probably a fade more on the Bucks, which we talked about here for some time with this Milwaukee Buck team, is they were going to hit a really tough scheduling spot. And you know, Chelsa, it's coming down to now. You know, we joke about load management, and now we've got Giannis with this knee injury. And I think what's going to happen now, I think it's just going to make a case for load management. When you see the Bucks going through the most difficult scheduling spot of any team right now, and you got an injured to a star, people are going to start questioning, why didn't you saw this schedule? Why didn't you just reduce his minutes? Why wasn't he playing? Stuff like that. And I think you're going to start seeing changes now in the NBA whenever you get a star player injured and they're in a difficult, and they've gone through a really difficult scheduling stretch.
Right. I almost wouldn't blame them, because I had to triple check this, but the Bucks have only played 3 home games since the All-Star break, which, if you don't remember, is around Valentine's Day. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. We talked about that on our Thursday show for Friday when they played the Lakers. They played 3 games, but the most important thing, all 3 of those games have been 1-game homestands, which, as Craig said in the open, you got to count those as road games, because you come in and you fly out. And when you look at the Bucks, they are playing their 11th game in 11 different locations. That is real tough on the team. And you're talking about shooting as a rhythm. It takes your body out of whack. You played at a big time program as a big time athlete, so you understand the rigors here. Just think about having to play 11 different locations in that short period of time. It's tough on these teams. And you saw it last night in their loss to the Phoenix Suns, getting pounded 140-131. I could only lean here with Denver laying the 5.5. It was going to be a big play for me at -2. Obviously, the line move keeps me away from betting the game, but I would still lean on the Denver side. And, Denver does have a day of rest. They're coming home here, and of course, they're battling the Clippers. Now, one thing to note too is when you got to look at some of these playoff races here. I think the most important races right now are the 4 and 5 seeds and the 2 and 3 in the West, because the Clippers and Nuggets separate themselves only by 1 game. So, there's a chance that they could meet in the Western Conference semis. And of course, if you're Denver, you want that home court advantage. You want to play it in Mile High.
Right. Even though the Nuggets have not been especially good against the number, they're 1-4 against the spread, coming off a loss to the Cavs. So, are you taking the Nuggets here because you like the Nuggets or because you're fading the Bucks?
It's more of a fade on the Bucks right now. Yeah, remember, they're not only are they hit with this difficult scheduling travel, but they're also playing back-to-back, third game in 4 nights. And one thing to note here is the Nuggets at least are in a better shooting form. The one positive with Denver is they're probably going to want to run in this game, and they're shooting. And when you look at their past 5 games, they are making 50%. I just don't believe that Milwaukee's going to be able to shoot at a high percentage here in this spot, especially if Nuggets come in with a fast pace, which I would do if I was in their shoes, because they have the day of rest. And of course, the Bucks traveling situation. And one thing to note here: if Milwaukee gets down big, I don't see a comeback in them. I mean, these are situations here where, you know, your head coach, you just saw Giannis go down. There's going to be heat on you. You know what the pregame press conference is going to be like. You know, this road stretch. Are you going to limit minutes? That's going to be in his head. I wouldn't be surprised if Milwaukee gets behind and he benches a lot of his first line players, and it's nothing but the backups here late third quarter and most of the fourth quarter.
So here's a question I have for you. After this, the Bucks play 7 of their next 8 at home. After this terrible stretch that we've talked about, where they're on the road doing these one-game homestands, do you think it's time to get back on the Bucks train, or does it matter, or does it just depend on their opponent?
Yeah, there's a little bit of both here. That first game back is always a stay away for me when the team comes home for the first game. And then after that, I would look at how much time they have after that game. Usually they give you a day off, maybe 2. If they get 2 days of rest, I'll look for some rest angles where they have at least 2 days off at home. Those are angles I like to play with home teams when they're at home for a while. But again, it does matter too with the opponent. What do they have to play for? Obviously, Bucks have something to play for if they want home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Of course, the Lakers are pushing them for that. So that's something to keep an eye on. Of course, as we get into mid-March, some of these winning teams, you got to wonder what their motivation is. You know, like the Lakers have built up a lead in the West now with that win against the Clippers. Are they really in it to win the West, or in the playoffs? You may start to see some of the head coaches pull some minutes away from some of their frontline players and to get them ready for the playoffs.
Right. I know you're on the West Coast, big or very knowledgeable at least on the Lakers. Lakers, I think, are the favorites now to win it all. Fair or foul?
Well, yeah, I'm still on the foul side. I mean, the Clippers had a bad shooting performance in that game. LeBron, you got to show it to me more than one game. Okay, so far the Clippers have a 2-1 lead on you. If this were a best of 7, so you got to show it to me that you can beat them in 4. So I'm still on the Clippers side here when it comes down to the head-to-head with the Lakers. I know the public's different because they believe in LeBron, but don't forget LeBron's pushing 4. He's 35 years old, right? He's getting up there in age, and I'm not a big fan. Don't forget Avery Bradley had a big game. The Lakers are going to need a lot of support from the cast there. I don't know if they have it right now to compete to beat the Clippers in a 7-game series. I would still be on the side of the Clippers, especially with the Clippers remember, they're not if they play each other in the Western Conference Finals. There's no travel involved, right? There's no travel for either team.
Right.
But I think that might help the Clippers even more because of their depth.
All right, we've got to wrap it up. That's our NBA segment. Thank you, Tony T. We're back after the break on Picks and Parlays. Welcome back to Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. All of your favorite social media sites. And we also have a website if you want to go there, picksandparlays.net, for all of your sports handicapping and betting needs. Right now, we're getting to the part in the show where we recap all of today's picks in case you weren't listening, in case you weren't paying attention. We got you covered. If you want to grab a pen, starting with college basketball picks, Sean Higgs gave us a couple West Coast Conference plays. San Francisco Gonzaga taking San Francisco, the Dons, at plus 12.5. St. Mary's BYU, he likes BYU at -4. And then moving on to Tony T's NBA picks, Hornets Hawks. He likes the Hornets +4 because the Hornets are on an absolute tear when it comes to against the spread. Hornets 6-0 in their last 6 against the number. Raptors Jazz taking the Raptors +4. And then finally Bucks Nuggets taking the Nuggets -5 and a hook because the Bucks have been on an absolute rigorous schedule as of late. Only 3 home games since the All-Star break. So yeah, they're a little tired, and plus they're coming off a loss to the lowly Suns, and of course that loss to the Lakers earlier in the week. That's our picks, and that's our show. Thanks for tuning in. As I mentioned, there's plenty of stuff to talk about this time of year with college basketball. The tournament is right around the corner, and so it's a good time to brush up on your knowledge of all of these teams. And plus, you can win some money every day. It's always a great day to win some money, and we're here to help you do it. That's going to wrap it up for our show. Again, picksandparlays.net. For any other questions you have, we're here every weekday on Picks and Parlays. Until next time, thanks for watching.